So we're going to talk about the 401k exposed. We're going to make it naked. Last segment, we discussed why a house is a good investment. Matter of fact, we said it's a lousy investment on the way on how people are currently using it. Now we're going to break down another myth, which is the 401k. We are going to discuss why it's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Mario, I think that's a great illustration of exactly what the 401k is doing to the common American. We hear all the outrage of increasing taxes, property taxes, health insurance. Biggest injustice that we have faced is the disappearance of the pension.
401k is a method most people are used to have to retire these days. It goes by many names. It's not just 401k. It could be deferred comp, 403b, thrift savings plan, any retirement plan that's using before tax income and it's deferring taxes, and the taxes are paid later when you're 59 and a half, it's categorize exactly what we're talking about within the 401k.
On the front end, it sounds like an excellent opportunity. I know when I first started working, some of the things that they would say to us was that, hey, defer your taxes now, pay them when you're in a lower tax bracket. That was a lie. The fact that they can save money that would have been paid out of taxes and you can make interest and pay the taxes later when you are in a lower tax bracket, again, that's not a good idea.
Well, that's what's being sold, and that's what a lot of the financial experts are saying, max out your 401k or whatever. But you know what? Let's look at a real example. We're going to get a guy who's he's not making a lot of money. He's going to make, let's say he makes $40,000 a year. And this employee is going to save 10% of his income, about $4,000 a year at retirement. Now, the employee is in a 25% tax bracket, okay? So that's $1,000 of the $4,000, it would have been taken out for taxes originally. So we're going to say that we're going to call that a $1,000 tax savings per year. But I'm not going to say savings all the way, because remember, we have to pay this back at some point. So a lot of times people get into this thing that I'm saving taxes, but we're going to say that we're going to defer those taxes. So I'm going to change the word that I use. Okay, now let's say this same employee worked 30 years. Okay, now at $1,000 a year tax savings, they've saved $30,000 in taxes that would have been paid out to Uncle Sam. But here's the problem. Remember I used that word deferred? Okay, now here's the issue. Because now we are going to have to respond and pay those taxes eventually, okay? So remember we said that we are currently in the 25% tax bracket in that situation that we just did. Now, do you believe taxes are going to go higher or lower in the future?
I would have to say they're going to go higher. I haven't met a politician that doesn't like a tax increase.
Well, that's what they campaign, that they're not going to. Remember, read my lips, no new taxes, and what ended up happening, we had higher taxes. So if taxes go up in the future, then the taxes that you're deferring today at 25% could be 28% in the future, or a lot higher in the future. So what about being in a lower tax bracket when you retire? Remember you were told that?
Yeah, but that's a fallacy too, because many of your deductions that you have in your earning years, your mortgage interest, child deductions, you can go on and on. Those deductions normally are not there when you actually retire and you start taking out the money.
Well, a lot of the times, your tax rate's based on income. So if you deferred this money and it's supposed to be the 401k and you're supposed to be getting a certain amount of income, there's not a line item as far as the age. It's going to be what is the income. You could be 105, but if you're making $100,000 worth of income, which the 401k is deferring a portion of your income, and you get that income, how are you going to be in a lower tax bracket?
So you're saying Uncle Sam doesn't care about my age, huh?
Uncle Sam does not. So that is something that I wish people would quit saying, that when I retire, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Matter of fact, just like you mentioned, when you have all those deductions gone, then you're going to have a lot of exposure. So let's get back to the example that we stated. Remember we said the 35-year-old middle-class individual is saving 10% of that $40,000 a year, okay? Or $4,000 a year in taxes. Now remember, as I previously stated, $1,000 of that money would have been paid out in taxes. Okay, so not only he is now allowed to save not only the $3,000 of his income, but even the money that he was supposed to pay in taxes. So on the front end, this looks pretty good. Okay, because now I could say, all right, so the money I was going to say pay out, which is $1,000, I could defer that and I could make interest on my taxes. Great. So let's assume that there's no stock market losses.
That's a big assumption.
Big assumption. And we're even going to give it a 7% interest rate. It's unrealistic, but for my math, let's roll with it, okay? So we'll also assume an employer match, which some companies will contribute to a limit. So in this example, the employer is going to contribute 50% of all his contribution up to 6%. So that's confusing. That means if that person's putting 10% of his annual salary in, that means they're gonna match him up to 6%, and they're gonna do 50% of that. So that's confusing, but it sounds great. So it means on 30 years, the numbers you would have contributed is $120,000. Now the employer match, where they match the 6% to 50%, that old confusing, let's just call it 36,000, because that's what it is. Okay, so now given the 7%, this would have amassed to $509,624. Now there's going to be a few variables that we're not considering. We're not considering that this person will make more money in the future due to inflation, but we're also not calculating any stock market losses.
That's a big assumption.
Okay, but I know there's some guys out there saying, well, that $509,000 is not assuming that the person's going to put more money in the future, but yes, we're going to keep it equal because we're not also factoring in any stock market losses. So we're going to keep the taxes the same. You said that taxes are going to increase in the future. Most economists say taxes are going to increase in the future, but for this example, we're going to keep the taxes the same. So what's going to happen is we're going to use our $40,000 income that we're currently receiving at age 65. Now that's 30 years in the future, so $40,000 is not going to be the same amount of money as it is today, but for this example, we're going to make it the same.
And that's due to inflation.
Inflation. Okay, now here the problem lies. Remember, we received a tax deferment of $1,000 a year when we were in our earning years, or $30,000 total. Now, we have deferred our taxes. So now we got to start taking the withdrawals of $40,000 a year, which is what we're currently making. Okay, so we are paying the taxes in this example, which would be $10,000 of taxes, assuming we're in the 25% tax bracket. And that doesn't include state and local taxes.
That's a pretty bleak situation right there.
Okay, so if you look at paying $10,000 worth of taxes by year 3, we've paid back every single dollar of taxes that we saved in our earning years. So if we give this person a life expectancy of 95, which is not unrealistic since we're living longer, he would have paid $300,000 worth of taxes versus the $30,000 he deferred.
Sounds like the government got a great deal on that.
Well, he doesn't really have to worry about paying $300,000 worth of taxes if we draw on $40,000 worth of income, because we're not going to get a 7% return with no stock market losses at this particular time, because this person, even if we factor in 7%, he's going to run out of money at age 84 at 7%. So yeah, he does, people, I don't want to pay that amount of tax. Don't worry, you're going to run out of money in that example. Now, a pension would guarantee his income for life, but now we have to gamble on the Wall Street casino.
Yeah, that's not a good place to have your money when you're depending on it for retirement.
So the problem is we're being told that this is the thing. You got people so angry about health insurance increases, property taxes, but now your income, the way you can be able to take care of yourself when you stop working, that's in jeopardy and nobody's thinking about it. That's the quickest thing, that's the quickest reason why. And we're not even gonna go there with all the market losses. 60 Minutes did a whole special on the devastation people got from their 401k because of stock market losses. That's the problem on what we're facing is now you're left to try to think about the winners and losers of what you gamble on. So even if you got a financial rep that's telling you that we're going to put this in just ultra safe investments, then it's not going to earn enough return for you. So by minimizing risk, you don't end up making the money that you need to make. So then now you're going to have even less money to be able to live off of in the future. So listen to this segment a couple times. It's a lot of numbers we threw at you, but listen to it, and hopefully you could start to be able to understand why we're saying that that's not the best method to be able to retire. So you learned about a house being a bad investment currently, and we taught you about the 401k and how it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. We'll let the math stand for itself. So we thank you, and we'll see you at the next segment.
Thank you.